Good morning. Thank you very much for being with us today. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off. We're going to begin our show with the diplomatic breakdown between the United States and NATO countries over the future of Greenland. The European Union is considering retaliatory measures against the U.S. after President Trump threatened to impose an additional 10% tariff on 8 European countries, including some of America's oldest allies. That is unless Greenland is sold to the U.S. Now, the tariffs would come into effect on February 1st and rise to 25% on June 1st if there is still no deal. President Trump is desperate to buy the Danish territory for what he says are national security reasons. But NATO ally Denmark and Greenland insist it is not for sale. It's a position other NATO and European countries support. Well, over the weekend, protests were held in both Denmark and Greenland against the U.S. People were waving signs that said, "We are not for sale," and "Make America go away." Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker challenged Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent about this issue on her show yesterday. Here she is with some of that interview.
Hello there, Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke exclusively with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent about President Trump's push to acquire Greenland. President Trump threatening to impose steep tariffs against some of America's closest European and NATO allies. The leaders of Denmark and Greenland say bluntly, Greenland is not for sale. What makes President Trump think it is?
Kristen, if we look for years, for over a century, American presidents have wanted to acquire Greenland, and what we can see is that Greenland is essential to the U.S. national security. We're building the Golden Dome, the missile system, and look, President Trump is being strategic. He's looking beyond this year. He's looking beyond next year to what could happen for a battle in the Arctic. We are not going to outsource our national security. We are not going to outsource our hemispheric security to other countries. In Trump 1.0, President Trump told the Europeans, do not build Nord Stream 2. Do not rely on Russian oil. And guess what, Kristen? Guess what is funding Russia's efforts against Ukraine? European purchases of Russian oil. So America has to be in control here.
You can see my full interview and a whole lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Kristen, thank you so much. Well, in a few moments, we will hear from Investopedia's editor-in-chief and chief business editor of People Inc., Caleb Silver. Before that, though, let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. She is joining us from West Palm Beach, Florida. Mel, good morning. Great to have you with us. So just tell us a bit more about what the president is threatening here and why the White House and his administration is saying that they are doing it. Is the White House not concerned about these tariffs harming these relations with our European and NATO allies?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. This is a dramatic escalation in Trump's push to acquire Greenland, and one that can make it more expensive for Americans here at home. What Trump is proposing here is a 10% tariff on all goods on from Denmark and 7 other European countries, and then that tariff would go up to 25% starting on June 1st if a deal is not reached to purchase Greenland. Trump argues this is necessary for global security and peace, and he argues that Russia is threatening Denmark and that Denmark is not prepared to adequately defend itself. And so far, Trump is not only not backing down, but he appears to be doubling down, with the Prime Minister of Norway confirming that he received a letter from the president in which Trump not only repeats his desire to acquire Greenland, but also says that he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace after not receiving the Nobel Peace Prize from Norway, despite the fact that it is not the Norwegian government that actually gives out that award. We reached out to the White House for comment. So far, though, we have not heard back, Savannah.
Mel, we know European ambassadors held this emergency meeting in Brussels yesterday to talk about this, to discuss the president's tariff threats. How is the bloc responding? What type of retaliation could we see?
Well, European leaders, frankly, have been stunned by this, but they are vowing to not be blackmailed, and they are weighing a range of responses. Some of those potential retaliatory options include tariffs. There's also a more extreme option known as a bazooka, which is a tool that's never been used before, but it can be used to target bad actors. Essentially, it would be things like limiting Americans from accessing the markets or investment proposals. Now, the heads of the European Council and European Commission put out a joint statement over the weekend saying that territorial integrity and sovereignty are fundamental principles of international law. The EU stands in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland. tariffs would undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. And of course, in addition to that emergency meeting of EU ambassadors that you mentioned last night, Trump also held separate calls with several European leaders where they continued to express their outrage.
Mel, finally, what are we hearing from lawmakers here in the U.S. about all this?
Well, I mean, somewhat predictably, these responses have fallen along party lines. Democrats say this is a dangerous land grab, that it could have massive impacts on the NATO alliance, while Republicans are mostly defending the president. Take a listen.
This is about a land grab. Donald Trump wants to get his hands on the minerals and other resources of Greenland.
And now some folks in the press, they clutch their pearls and they say, well, what do you mean acquiring Greenland? How could that happen? Look, the whole history of America has been a history of acquiring new lands and new territories.
Now, we should note that not all Republicans are backing up Trump. Retiring Senator Tom Tillis came out and said that these tariffs would be, quote, beyond stupid in a statement on social media. He was part of a bipartisan congressional delegation that was actually in Denmark just recently, trying to turn down the temperature and trying to assuage our allies that Congress has their back.
Right,
Savannah.
no, thank you very much. Let's now bring in our friend Caleb Silver to talk about the economic repercussions here. Caleb, I mean, if this just goes back and forth, we tariff them. They're discussing this own package of tariffs on $107 billion worth of U.S. imports. What is the impact here for the economy and the consumer?
Yeah, rising prices. And keep in mind, we already have a 15% tariff on most European countries, a 10% tariff on the U.K.,
right.
Even some other goods like auto parts and others. Those have 20, 25% tariffs. So if you're adding an additional 10% and then potentially additional 25% come June, if this isn't resolved, you're looking at higher prices for all those imports. That's medicine, that's airplane parts, that's some chemicals, that's wine, that's cheese, that's a lot of the imports we get from Europe.
Some of those things we really love, too. We just heard Mel talk about this kind of like nuclear option, something that has not even been used before in terms of what the European Union may do in response here. Walk us through that a little bit further.
Yeah, that's called the Anti-Coercion Instrument, the ACI, the Economic Bazooka. And this was developed by the European Union in 2023 for this very purpose. It was to deter the U.S. and China from their sprawling economic ambitions, things just like this. So what does that mean? That means cutting off U.S. companies from access to trade. That means not allowing U.S. companies to bid on European projects. That means basically strangling the U.S. companies that do business in Europe from continuing to do business in Europe. And that's important because half of the revenue from companies in the United States comes from outside the United States, a lot of it from those European countries.
Absolutely. Today, it's Dr. Martin Luther King Day. It's a federal holiday, so Wall Street is closed. What, though, are we seeing in global markets that are open? What are futures telling us about how our markets might be reacting to this?
Yeah, you're seeing automakers, especially the big European automakers, their shares are getting hit pretty hard in European and Asian trading. I would expect to see more of that come Tuesday when the markets open here in the United States. And the markets were coming into this year in a pretty strong state. Earnings look good. The economy seemed to be growing, but this is more confusion. And confusion, as you know, is like kryptonite for investors. They don't like uncertainty, and this is a lot more uncertainty.
Absolutely. So what is the advice right now for consumers, investors, people at home who are just nervous watching their investment accounts?
Yeah, well, if you've been watching this for the last, I don't know, year or so, you've seen a lot of this headline risk impact your portfolio on a near-term basis. But on a long-term basis, the stock market is near record highs. I wouldn't do anything rash. These things are threats to begin with. This is economic imperialism, and we've seen this play before. It doesn't always play out the way it seems on the first or second day of those headlines.
Caleb Silver, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Well, millions of people across the East Coast are waking up to a frigid winter wonderland this morning. There are more than 30 million people under winter alerts after storms left a blanket of snow from the Midwest to the Northeast. Some states got hit with nearly 8 inches and freezing temperatures. Well, the winter blast even reached as far south as Florida this weekend, and that is all causing chaos for travelers on the roads and at major airports. Let's get a closer look at these bitter temperatures and see what else we can expect this week with our Morning News Now weather. We have Andrea Romero here in studio with us. Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. And it's bitterly cold out there across 2/3 of the country. We can see these alerts, these cold alerts that are in effect impacting over 77 million people, and that's all the way from the upper Midwest down to southeast portions of the country. We even have some cold advisories still in effect for parts of Florida this morning. So we're expecting this Arctic blast to continue throughout the whole day. This morning, we're looking at extremely cold temperatures, wind chills that are below zero, 15 degrees below zero in Milwaukee, 10 degrees below zero in Minneapolis. We're looking at even wind chills that are near 30 degrees in Baltimore and 44 degrees further south. The cold will continue into tomorrow and will be extending even more into the northeast, where we can see some wind chills below zero up here in Greenville and close to 15 degrees in Morgantown. So this cold, bitter air will continue across this area. In addition to the cold, we're also dealing with some snow. We have some winter alerts up. We are talking about some winter storm warnings near the Great Lakes, winter weather advisories near Boston. Over 30 million people impacted by these conditions, or nearly 30 million people, as we are looking at that storm system that brought that snowfall during the weekend exiting the northeast. And now we're looking at another one that's moving through the Great Lakes. So we're expecting this system to move through today, bringing strong winds, reinforcing the cold air in the area. Intense lake effect snow bands will be developing across the Great Lakes today. Into tomorrow, they will continue with 35-mile-per-hour winds, with snow making it very difficult for travel in that area. As far as the snowfall forecast, we can get locally up to 2 to 3 feet of snow in the Tug Hill Plateau in northern New York. That seems to be the bullseye for the intense precipitation that's going to be coming off of Lake Ontario. And then we're expecting accumulations of 1 to 2 feet in other areas around the Great Lakes, and that's through tomorrow. As far as the western part of the country, well, we have an upper ridge that's keeping us sunny and warm along that area. We do have the possibility of some stagnant air advisories up in the northwest. And then as the week progresses, we're expecting more snow through the Great Lakes into the northeast. And then some southern showers can develop, but the warm air will stay in control over the western half of the country. So that's what it's looking like for midweek. And we're definitely going to be expecting those cold temperatures to linger. And this is almost an appetizer, because we're having a second blast of cold air that looks to be coming in for next week, where temperatures are going to be even colder than they are now. Yeah, so it's setting us up.
Yes. All right, Andrea, thank you so much. Stay warm. We'll see you in an hour. Well, after another weekend of protests, tensions are escalating in Minneapolis, where President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and send in U.S. troops in response to the protests against his immigration crackdown. The Pentagon released this video Saturday showing members of the Minnesota National Guard refueling trucks and unloading equipment following the president's threat. Well, it comes as federal investigations have been launched into several of the state's Democratic leaders. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the latest from Minneapolis. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, good morning. As clashes mount over ongoing immigration raids here in Minneapolis, the Trump administration this morning is preparing, it appears, to take historic measures, with 2 defense officials confirming to NBC News the Pentagon has placed 2 battalions of the 11th Airborne Division, some 1,500 active duty troops, on prepare to deploy orders. This after President Trump publicly weighed invoking the Insurrection Act here in Minneapolis. Those officials adding they have no further indication beyond those comments that the president will do so, calling these orders, quote, prudent planning. This follows violent clashes over the weekend, including dueling rallies Saturday with conservative activists leading a pro-ICE demonstration. And yesterday, protesters interrupting a service at a church where they say an ICE employee serves as a pastor. The Justice Department now saying it's looking into that incident. Meanwhile, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey under growing pressure, with the DOJ investigating whether he and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz have been impeding immigration enforcement, according to a senior law enforcement official and a person familiar with the matter. Frey saying this is stuff that happens in other countries, shouldn't happen in America. Governor Walz posting, quote, the only person not being investigated for the shooting of Renee Good is the federal agent who shot her. And indeed, when asked yesterday whether the DOJ is investigating the shooting itself, the Deputy Attorney General saying on Fox News no, adding, quote, we don't just go out and investigate every time an officer is forced to defend himself. Back to you.
All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you very much. Well, when the immigration operations were announced in Minneapolis, the Department of Homeland Security claimed that they were targeting fraud. Well, now some attorneys in Minnesota with clients who have been taken into ICE custody are alleging that the fraud investigations are just a pretense to arrest refugees who are in the country legally. They believe the people being targeted have done nothing wrong. Reporter Lou Ragoose from our NBC affiliate in Minneapolis has the details.
Habeas corpus petitions tell the stories, like Laban Guled, a 29-year-old Somali refugee from Shakopee who says he's followed all the required processes and procedures, arrested at Chipotle during his lunch break.
So far, this enforcement disproportionately affected the Somali community here in Minnesota.
Abdikani Jabani is one of several Twin Cities attorneys representing clients arrested by ICE as part of Operation Paris. The Department of Homeland Security announced Operation Paris 1 week ago, calling it a landmark fraud investigation to re-examine refugee cases through new background checks and intensive verification of refugee claims. But attorneys say that stated mission of Operation Paris hasn't actually played out, and that ICE officers are arresting people in the country lawfully.
This is someone who has done nothing wrong. Nothing.
Michelle Drake is representing a 16-year-old high school student from Minnesota whom she says agents arrested and separated from her family.
They didn't have anywhere to put her, and she spent the night in a hotel room with 2 adult ICE agents who were strangers to her, before thankfully the federal court intervened and stopped the U.S. government from sending her to a camp in Texas, which was their intention.
Drake says the 8 clients she represents arrested under Operation Paris do not have allegations of fraud against them.
Even if there was a need to investigate some fraud, which there isn't, since when in the United States of America do we lock people up in order to conduct investigations?
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.